The filters area in Elements allow you to apply drop shadows, blurs and saturation to your component. By default it's set to none, and we can switch to static. We also support hover effects here, which we'll get into in a moment. So to start, I've switched to static and the effect applies to everything. So when I apply a blur, let's do 10 pixels, the whole object blurs. And I can swap that to just the background content, so we can see the camera is blurred there, or we can set just the foreground content. Now if you've set the background content and you're noticing these blurry edges, to fix that we need to go up to layout and we need to set the overflow to hidden, and that will crop it for us so it keeps the blur within the bounds. I'm going to switch that off for now as we don't need that, and go back to filters. Now let's set that back to 0. We can also adjust the brightness, so you can see there, and if I do a low value it darkens the image, and again I can apply that to just the content and not the camera there, or I can apply it to everything. 100 is the default value here to give you the correct look. Saturation, again a lower number will desaturate the image and a higher number will add saturation to the image. Now you can also add a drop shadow, and we have a backdrop blur here. Now for this to work you need your object to be transparent or semi-transparent. So I'm going to show you how that works on the card here, because it works differently to the standard blur. So let's go in here and we'll switch on static. Now the blur, like before, if I add that it blurs the whole object like this, but we don't want that. We want a background blur. So if I switch this on, you'll notice when I put in a value nothing happens, and that's because it's blurring the objects behind our object here, but we can't see through it. So what we need to do is turn down the background color. So now you can see our background is blurred behind that. So let's leave this on about 30%, and we'll go back to filters. And now if I set the blur to 0, you can see that sharp, and as I increase this it blurs more. So this gives that nice glass kind of effect there, that frosted glass look, which is very popular. We can also do these effects on hover. So let's click that one there. We can go over to hover, and if we wanted we could make that appear. We'll start with 5 on that, and then when we roll in it's set to 0, so you can see as I roll in there it becomes clear. Currently this is applied to everything in the object, all these effects, but what we can do is we can specify when this runs with the over option here. So we can get it to run when we just roll into it, or when you roll into the parent it can trigger as well. So now when I go into the main card you can see the effect triggering and I'm not even in the object. So that's pretty useful, and you've also got some other options there like container, grid, flex and box, and it will look for those items in the nearest hierarchy of that object. So I'm going to leave it on self for now. So that's how to use the filter effects in Elements, and if you want any more information on this, please check the Elements manual.